Welcome to a new tutorial series on creating a very simple Minecraft world generation. In this tutorial we're going to be going over making a basic Minecraft world in forms of chunks, and it's going to include a top layer with different biomes. It's going to include caves and also some mineral generation. Pretty much the basics that if you want you can construct more on it to develop it further. There is one key piece of information to note here, is that this is going to be in blueprints only. And sadly, from my experience, having tried for a few weeks on this and iterating through different manners of constructing this project, I don't believe it is possible to make something game ready on this scale for a Minecraft-like copy in Unreal Engine with just blueprints. This project kind of showcased the limits of blueprints to me. I still thought it would be interesting to make this tutorial series as a whole anyway. For this project we are going to be using a plugin, and that plugin is the fast noise generator. So this is available for free. If you just search for fast noise generator, this is what it looks like. This plugin simply allows us to, instead of manually generating our noise textures, it's just going to have it already pre-built for us in C++, which will be lighter than if we had to write the code ourselves. So what you want to do is you want to install this to your engine. In my case, it's already installed on 5.3, as that's what we're going to be using here. And I already have a Unreal Engine project right here ready to go. So we're going to select Games, First Person Template, and we'll call this Minecraft World, and we don't need any of these things, just leave it like that. So let's go ahead and create it, and I'll get back to you once it's loaded. So the project is loaded. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to be making a new level, because we don't want to be using the base level. The base level itself already has the world partition system, and we won't be using that. And for some of you who might be wondering why we're not using the world partition system, is because the world partition system doesn't manage runtime, and because every time you start a Minecraft world you generate a new seed, we can't actually do that in editor. We need to do it when the game launches, so that means it's runtime, so meaning the world partition system doesn't work with it. So I want to go and create an entirely new folder just to store everything else in there. We'll just call this Minecraft. There we go. And inside of it we're going to make a new level, so we're just going to File, New Level. We'll choose the basic, Create, and then we can save it right here. So inside of Minecraft, we'll just call this our L overworld and save it. So now we're going to import some assets, and the assets that I'm giving here are from Minecraft themselves, so they're not, obviously you cannot make your own project with them and market it. This is just for educational purposes, so feel free to download them. There are packs online where you can get different textures if you want. That's up to you, but we're only going to be using a few. So I'm going to go ahead and import them, and you should find them in the description below in the Google Drive. So just call this assets. That's what it's going to contain, and I'm going to drag them in here. And I believe we're just going to import as is. There's nothing else we need here. We have one object, which is the cube, and then we have some textures. So as you can probably see here, these are pixelated textures, and these are being blurred currently. So to fix that, and this works with obviously any kind of pixelated art that you want to use in a texture, you want to go ahead and open it up, and you'll have to do this individually, sadly. And inside of our texture advanced, right here, we're going to look for our default filter here and put it to nearest. And what that will do is it will make it keep the texture more sharp. So as you can see now, it's sharp again. So we'll do the same on each of them. So in our texture, we have advanced open. We change the filter to nearest, save, and if we go ahead and open it again, it's sharp again. So we'll just do this for all of them very quickly. So we're going to start off by making our material. And this is kind of the key element that you're going to be using to display everything you're working with. So we'll make a new folder for the material. And inside of it, we will create our new material, which will be M, and we'll call it block. Now, for this part, this is all that we're going to be covering here. we're going to start by setting up all of this. So the first thing we need to change is down in the usage. So make sure you select this. If you have another node, this is what you want to select. We want to make sure that it is set for instanced static mesh. So we're going to go down right here. So just stretch that out, instant static mesh. And we then want to apply. And this is so that once, because we're going to be working with instant static meshes later, so that we can actually see the texture appear. If you don't do this and you use instant static meshes, it won't work. One thing we want to do is just to get that kind of Minecraft style first, we want to put our roughness here to 1. And that will kind of give it that rough look that you see in game. So next we want to make sure that we're previewing on our correct mesh, that we know that it will work once we're done, is we want to change this. So we can do that by selecting our M block, going down, and here we have our preview mesh. We want to select our cube from our assets. So go ahead and open that. You can rename it to something else if you want to make it more clear. So we'll just say imp for imported, and we'll just say cube, just that we can tell the difference. That way we know that it's not just any old cube. So right now it's black, and now we're going to get into making the actual material itself. So because of how Minecraft works and how it's only using cubes and there is never any kind of diagonal as far as directions go, we can actually use the vertex normal to display the colors. So what we're going to do is we're going to get vertex normal, not vertex T, world space. And what this will do, if we plug it into base color, we can see it'll display a specific color based on the direction it is facing in the world. Now obviously we can also do multiply by -1 to get the inverse of it. And so what this will do is it'll do the opposite. So with this, we then have our different directions for the cube. We have all surfaces represented. So then we just need to tell them how to interact with each one. So pretty much what this will do is it will be our alpha, so that we can tell each cube to have a specific surface in any direction. That way we can have wood, we can have the dirt that has grass on the top and dirt on the bottom, etc. So to do that, we want to keep our -1, and we're going to move this across so we have a bit of extra space, because we're going to need a decent bit. And with this, we're going to break out the float components so that we have the R, G, and B's that we have each direction. And red here is going to be the front. And so we're going to drag out from here, from our red, and this is going to be our front. Now, to save it as that so we don't have lines going everywhere, we're going to search for named reroute declaration node. And what this does is it just saves it as a specific node that we can call later. So we'll call this front alpha. And so if here we type front alpha, it will appear and we can reference it like that. So we're going to do the same for green. We're going to get named reroute. This is going to be right alpha, like this. And finally, for blue, it's going to be the top. So named reroute again, top alpha. There we go. And we're just going to duplicate this here and plug it into the float with the negative so that we have the opposite side. Obviously, we're going to change this from front to back alpha, right to left alpha, and finally bottom instead, or bot will do alpha. There we go. So now we have all these set up correctly. So these are now our different alpha values. So we can apply. Now, one last thing we need to set up before we actually start getting our textures is we need to know how we're going to tile it. So to tile it, we need a few things. First, we need to get our texture coordinates. And we're just going to save these because it's as a named reroute as well, because it's just easier and smaller to handle. So we're going to turn this into a named, and it's going to be UV texture. This. So this is just kind of all the setup. We'll just keep all the setup here and do the rest next to it. Then what we want is we want object scale, which will allow us to know how it is scaled in each direction, which will allow us to then stretch the texture as is needed. So this will be our scale X. So named reroute again, scale X, and we can just duplicate this, and this will be scale Y, and this will be scale Z. There we go. Now we can just change the color. We can also change the colors of these if we want to. So we'll just make them the correct color. So X is usually just red. So we'll just drag that all the way up. Y is green. So we'll remove that. And for Z, we will put it at blue. There we go. So now we have the distinction between the three very clearly. And we can get into making our actual textures. So in the end, we're going to be setting this up with a data asset system. So once we do this once, we'll be able to just do it all in the same spot and we'll never have to change anything here again. So we're going to start with the top and the bottom. So for the top and the bottom, we need to have our UV texture. So the one that we have right here. And it needs to be multiplied by our scale. Now, because it is a UV texture, this is 2D, we need two scales. And in the case of doing the top and the bottom, that means that we're using all the scales except the Z. So we want to get scale X, we want to get scale Y, and we are going to append these two nodes. So we want to append vector, plug these two in, and this goes into the multiply. Now with this, we then want to actually get a texture sample, and this texture sample is going to be the top. So we're going to convert it to a parameter and we'll call it top. And you can obviously call it top texture or whatever you want, that's fine. And this is going to be our actual return value. So for now, we will need to save this because we need to make it so that only when we're talking about our top alpha being true, meaning we're talking about this texture here, we want to save this. So once again, we're going to do some reroute nodes here, some named reroute, sorry. But one last thing we want is in the case where we have grass, because of how our texture is set up here, it is gray. So we can't just plug this in here. We also want to add a color for this. So we're going to multiply this. We can press M and click, just pull it up. And we're looking for a color. So we're going to press 4, I believe. Yeah, 4. Plug this in here. And we will convert this to a parameter as well, which will say top color. Let's just connect these two together. And by default, we want the color to be white. And put alpha to 1 as well. And now this here can actually be called our named reroute, and we will say top texture. There we go. Now, to get the bottom texture, we want to do the same thing, but we simply want to get this here, and we're going to just add a normal reroute here. And let's just copy this because it's going to be the exact same thing. Plug in our UV, but we need to change our texture obviously because it won't be top. We're going to be looking for bot here, and the same for the color. There we go. So, and the same, sorry, for the texture here, the reroutes, it will be bot texture. There we go. So this does it for our top and bottom. Now we need to do a similar thing for our front and back, but we'll also be doing the same kind of trick for the left and right as well. So we'll do it below here. So once again, we want our UV texture, just copy that. And we want to call custom rotator here. And we will be rotating by 90 degrees, so 0.5 here. So we want to get a 1. So hold down 1 and press. And we want 0.5. Go align these two up. And so with this, once again, we're going to need a multiply. And we want to multiply this time, we're going to be doing the front. So we want the front and the back. So we want the scale Y and the scale Z because X won't change. So we want to get scale Z and scale Y. So here we go and append the two, not append many, sorry. Want to append vector right here, line these two up, plug them in, and this will give us our front. So once copy both of these, and this will go here, This will go here. And now instead of top, this will be front. This will be back. And once again, we change the name here from front to front texture, sorry. The color to front color. And here we want it back color and back texture. Now for the side, so left and right, we are going to use the same thing here because the rotation works the same, and we're just going to instead multiply by X and Z instead of Z and Y. So we'll multiply here and we'll just add another reroute just so it's all kind of at the same height. And we are going to get our Y, and we'll just copy the X here, and there we go. Connect these two. This is the multiply we're looking for, and just like before, we are going to copy this, not this, just these. There we go. Plug that into the multiply and this as well. And this time it is going to be right. This is going to be left. This is right color. This is right texture. Not right texture, one right texture. This is left color. And this is left texture. There we go. So now we have all our textures. We have all our alphas. Just to make sure one last time, it's the same pattern everywhere. It's always right, 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 and here is left, 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 and then here we have back and front, and here we have top and bottom. So now to get all this connected, we need to have one last thing here, which is going to kind of finish and wrap everything up. So we're going to want to get our front, so front texture, and we're going to plug this into a lerp, and we need to make sure we put this on B. And in the alpha, we're going to get front alpha, and make sure that you put the lerp to 1, because if we don't have anything, we don't want to be negating it, because what we'll be doing here is multiplying each of these together, meaning if it's not the front, we multiply by the rest. But for instance, if it isn't the front, we want to make sure that we have 1, because if you have 0, it's multiplying by black, and black will always yield 0, so we don't get a value. So we want to copy this for each of them, so that is 6 times, that's 4, 5, 6. And we want to get our back texture. You can do this in any order, it doesn't really matter, but we'll just keep it sorted. So back alpha, this we multiply here. Then we want to get our, we'll say front, and we'll say top texture, top alpha, plug this in here. And then we want to do the same thing with bot texture, bot alpha, plug this in right here. There we go. And let's line these up, just make them all about the same spacing. Multiply these two together. And then the last two we need are the left and right. So left texture, left alpha. Once again, plug them in the same way, doesn't change. Then right alpha and right texture. So other way around. On B, line these two up. Just plug. That's not aligned correctly, and there we go. So we multiply these two together as well. This, another multiplication here to connect these two, and a final one right here to finish it up. Then we want to plug this into the base color, and we have some errors. Oh yeah, so we just have an error because we don't have a texture by default. So just to test it out, for top we're going to put grass, and so we want to choose grass block top, and for grass block bottom, or for the bottom, we're going to put our dirt, so right here. And for the other ones, for front, left, right, etc., we're going to put the grass texture side. and we'll do that for all of them. So grass texture side, grass texture side, and grass texture side again. And so now we have our actual texture. Now, because we haven't set a color, this is just white. So let's go ahead and modify that as well. This is just the by default. We're going to be making a material instance anyway, so we can change it later. So for top, we want to change it, and we will put, I think, something along this line. This is correct. It's not perfect, but for testing purposes, it's just fine. So I think more around here. There we go. That looks about right. It's not perfect, but it's okay. So we want to apply and save. And so now we have our material. So we can go ahead and make a material instance for this. So let's go and in here, right click, material instance, mi block. There we go. And we can open it up. And this time let's change it to maybe, let's make it coal, because we have a, I didn't import many of the textures that I used, but just because there's no purpose in showing every single one. Or we can do bedrock. So just select it in here so it's a bit quicker, and then you just want to go and use selected assets and plug them all in. Now obviously this is green because we have our color here. Let's just put that back to white, and it looks like a normal bedrock texture. So it's working just fine. The last thing we want to test is just make sure that it works when we stretch it. So we're going to get rid of what we already have here, because this by default isn't actually this. So we could attach the material, but I don't think it will work perfectly here. Well, it does, so that's perfect. It works exactly as intended, but this isn't the object we'll be using, but that should be what we get as far as appearances go. Let's try and drop our asset here as well, and we'll just use the normal material for this one. So like this, and there we go. Yeah, so we have our grass texture, and if we go ahead and scale this like this, it is stretching out correctly. Now normally it should be scaling only by units of 1, so like this, and then we don't have any issues at all. So we are having an issue here. This isn't, it shouldn't be doing this. I think I made a mistake somewhere with the scale. So let's go and have a look why that is incorrect. I think, sorry, so the issue is just, I think these two are inverted. You need to make sure Y is first, I think. Let's just double check, we'll apply it. And that does seem to solve the issue, yeah. So that was the issue, it's just the same thing here. So make sure for this is for the front and the back, make sure that you scale Y and Z in this specific order for the append. And I think it's the same thing here. Sorry, no, so the reason this is incorrect actually, we want to get scale Z here, not scale Y. That's my mistake. So now that should work. So this is for the right, make sure you use scale X, scale Z. And there we go. So now it's actually stretching correctly as it should. And if we go up, we kind of will get this, but this is normal because it's considering it 2 layers of grass block. We will be setting it up so that if ever we spawn a block like this and there is another one under it, it will be turned into normal dirt. That's going to do it for this part. I'm going to be doing these in a bit smaller, and obviously usually I do a kind of video a week with these. I'm going to be trying to do 2 videos a week, but shorter, so it's maybe easier to follow along, but at the same time keeping the same pace. So let me know what you think about this kind of new format for these tutorials. I hope you enjoyed this one, although we didn't cover much. You now know how to make textures like Minecraft in UE5. So I will see you in the next part. Goodbye.